You've probably been here before. One day they're texting you, sharing little pieces of their life, laughing with you, making you feel seen, and then suddenly they disappear. No explanation, no closure, just silence. That silence doesn't just feel empty, it feels personal. It makes you question yourself. Did I say something wrong? Did I move too fast? Am I not enough? That's the pain of being ghosted by someone emotionally unavailable, and it cuts deeper than most people admit. Because when someone vanishes without warning, your mind fills the gap with self-blame, hope, and confusion, all at the same time. And the worst part, you keep checking your phone, hoping they'll come back, while a part of you already knows they might disappear again. But here's the truth you need to hear before we go any further. Their ghosting is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their fear, a fear of closeness, of vulnerability, of losing control. When someone has an avoidant attachment style, intimacy feels like a trap to them, even if they genuinely like you. When emotions get real, their nervous system goes into survival mode. Instead of talking, instead of explaining, instead of staying, they shut down and pull away. To them, disappearing feels safer than being seen. And yet, despite this, you still feel deeply connected. You still think about them. You still wonder how to make them stay. That emotional bond can be addictive, because when they are present, they are warm, charming, and intoxicating. When they leave, the withdrawal feels unbearable. Your brain craves their attention like a drug, and that's exactly why so many people chase avoidance. Now here's the painful truth most people never talk about. The more you chase an avoidant, the faster they run. When you send long messages, when you ask for reassurance, when you try to pull them closer emotionally, you unknowingly trigger their deepest fear. To you, it feels like love and connection. To them, it feels like pressure and loss of freedom. Their mind interprets closeness as danger, so they deactivate emotionally. They detach, they disappear. You might think, if I show them how much I care, they'll finally understand and stay. But for an avoidant, intensity often feels like suffocation. They grew up learning that emotions were unsafe, that closeness meant pain, or that independence was the only way to survive. So when you lean in, they instinctively lean out, and the more you lean in, the more they shut down. This is the tragic push-pull cycle that keeps you stuck. You chase because you care, they pull away because they're scared, and both of you feel misunderstood. But what if I told you that avoidants have an ego need that most people never notice? A hidden emotional trigger that can flip the dynamic completely. Avoidants secretly crave one thing more than closeness: control over their emotional world. They want to feel admired, independent, and untouchable. They want to feel that they are choosing you, not being chased by you. Their ego is tied to autonomy and self-sufficiency. Deep down, they want to feel special, irreplaceable, and in control of their connections. This is where the ego trick comes in. It's not manipulation. It's not playing toxic games. It's a subtle psychological shift that changes how they perceive you emotionally. Instead of seeing you as someone who is chasing and available, they begin to see you as someone who is grounded, confident, and slightly out of reach. And that perception shift can awaken their curiosity, their desire, and yes, their chase instinct. The ego trick is simple but powerful. Withdraw with confidence, not in anger, not in silence as punishment, but in calm, self-assured detachment. When you stop over-explaining, stop chasing, and start focusing on your own life with genuine energy, something changes inside them. They feel the loss of control, they feel uncertainty, and uncertainty is what wakes up an avoidant's dormant emotions. Think about it. When you were always there, always available, always responsive, they felt safe to pull away because they knew you'd still be there. But when you emotionally step back with dignity and self-respect, their brain starts asking questions. Are they moving on? Did I lose them? Why do I suddenly feel this emptiness? That's when their suppressed attachment system activates. That's when they start thinking about you. That's when they come back. This isn't about making them suffer. It's about restoring balance. It's about shifting from desperation to self-worth. When you withdraw with confidence, you're not trying to get a reaction. You're choosing yourself, and ironically, that's what makes them chase. You stop giving them unlimited access to your energy. You stop proving your value. You stop begging for clarity. Instead, you become calm, grounded, and emotionally self-contained, and that is magnetic. Because avoidants are drawn to what feels free, independent, and emotionally stable. When you embody that energy, you trigger their ego in the healthiest possible way. They feel that being with you is a privilege, not a burden. They feel that they have to step up, not pull away. And the most powerful part, even if they don't chase, you still win, because you're no longer sacrificing your peace for someone who can't meet you emotionally. You're no longer stuck in the loop of waiting, hoping, and overthinking. You're reclaiming your power. In the next part, we're going to go deeper into why this psychological shift works on the avoidant mind and how to apply it without losing your authenticity or self-respect. You've already felt the shift just by imagining what it would be like to stop chasing, to stop proving, to stop pouring your energy into someone who keeps pulling away. But now, let's go deeper, because this isn't just emotional advice. There is a real psychological force at work here, and once you understand it, you'll never see avoidance or yourself the same way again. When you withdraw with confidence, something fascinating happens in the avoidant mind. A psychological mechanism called reactance gets activated. Reactance is what happens when someone feels they are losing freedom or control over something they assumed they had. When you were always available, they felt in control. They could disappear and come back whenever they wanted. They could ghost and reappear without consequences. Your presence felt guaranteed. But the moment you calmly step back, that guarantee disappears. Suddenly, you are not there to soothe their ego, to validate them, to emotionally anchor them. Their brain experiences this as a subtle threat, not a dramatic heartbreak, but a quiet loss of power. And humans are wired to desire what feels uncertain or slipping away. This is why avoidants often chase when you stop chasing. It's not because they suddenly become emotionally secure. It's because their nervous system feels the shift in power and autonomy. They feel a loss, and that loss triggers curiosity, longing, and even obsession. And here's the part that's hard to hear. When you were chasing, they didn't feel the same intensity you felt. They felt pressure. They felt overwhelmed. They felt trapped. But when you pull back with grace, they feel intrigue. They feel attraction. They feel the desire to re-engage. Now, this doesn't mean you should disappear completely or play cruel games. The power is in the emotional tone. You're not vanishing to punish them. You're not using silence as a weapon. You're simply redirecting your emotional energy back to yourself. And that energy shift is what changes everything. There's another layer to this that most people miss. Avoidants are highly sensitive to emotional intensity. When you are emotionally predictable, they feel safe to detach. When you become emotionally grounded but slightly unpredictable, their curiosity awakens. This is what I call the mystery shift. You don't overshare every feeling. You don't respond instantly to every message. You don't center your day around their availability. Instead, you live, you move, you grow. You become a person with a full emotional and physical life that doesn't revolve around them. Suddenly, they don't know exactly where they stand with you, and that uncertainty is powerful. It creates mental loops in their mind. They start replaying conversations. They start wondering what you're doing. They start thinking about what they might be losing. And this is where their ego comes into play again. Avoidants often have a strong need to feel significant without feeling dependent. When you show that you're not emotionally dependent on them, but still warm, still kind, still grounded, you create a paradox. They feel drawn to you because you're emotionally safe, but they also feel challenged because you're not clinging to them. Now, feeding their ego doesn't mean flattery or over-validation. It means recognizing their independence without worshipping it. You can say things like, "I respect how independent you are," or "I admire how you handle things on your own." But you don't say, "I can't live without you," or "You're the only one who understands me." You keep your identity intact. You keep your emotional center of gravity inside yourself, and that is incredibly attractive to an avoidant. Because deep down, they fear being consumed by someone else's emotions. When you show emotional maturity, self-worth, and groundedness, you signal that being close to you won't erase them. It won't trap them. It won't control them. Instead, it becomes something they can choose, and choice is everything to an avoidant. Now let's talk about the silence frame, because this is where most people sabotage themselves. When an avoidant pulls away, the instinct is to reach out, to clarify, to seek reassurance. You might send multiple messages, explain your feelings, or ask where you stand. And while those needs are valid, the timing is everything. When you chase during their withdrawal, you reinforce their sense of control. You tell them, no matter what you do, I'll still be here waiting. That removes any urgency, any curiosity, any sense of loss. The silence frame is not about ignoring them forever. It's about pausing. It's about not filling the space with anxiety. It's about letting them feel the absence of your energy. You don't send angry messages. You don't post passive-aggressive stories. You don't try to provoke jealousy. You simply continue your life. You respond when appropriate, but you don't chase. You don't over-invest. You don't over-explain. And emotionally, this is powerful. Because when you stop reacting, you become emotionally unpredictable in a calm, grounded way. They no longer know exactly how you feel, how attached you are, or how available you will be. And that uncertainty reactivates their attachment system. But this is also where your healing begins. The silence frame is not just for them, it's for you. It gives you space to breathe, to think, to feel without being consumed by their behavior. It helps you reconnect with your self-worth, your goals, your identity beyond the relationship. You start to realize that your value doesn't depend on their texts, your worth doesn't depend on their consistency, your peace doesn't depend on their availability. And that realization is life-changing. Because when you truly internalize your self-worth, something shifts in your energy. You stop needing them to validate you. You stop interpreting their behavior as a measure of your value. You stop shrinking yourself to keep them close. And paradoxically, that's when they often feel you the most. They feel the absence of your emotional chasing. They feel the shift in your energy. They sense that you're no longer waiting, and that can trigger a deep internal conflict inside them. They might feel a sudden urge to reconnect, to check in, to re-establish the bond. But here's the deeper emotional layer. When you step into your self-worth, you're no longer just trying to make them chase. You're deciding whether they are even worthy of chasing you. You begin to ask different questions. Do they show up consistently? Do they communicate honestly? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they meet your emotional needs? And this is where true power lies, not in making someone chase you, but in choosing not to chase someone who can't meet you. The ego trick works because it aligns with psychological principles, but it also works because it aligns you with your authentic self. It brings you back to your center. It reminds you that love should not feel like abandonment, anxiety, or confusion. As you continue this journey, remember that your emotional attachment is not a weakness, it is a sign of your capacity to love deeply. But that love must start with you. When you embody self-worth, calm detachment and emotional maturity, you naturally become magnetic, not just to avoidance, but to anyone who is capable of a healthy connection. In the next part, we're going to explore how this shift in energy changes their brain chemistry, why uncertainty creates obsession, and how to maintain your power when they inevitably come back. By now, you've begun to understand something fundamental. When you stop chasing, you're not rejecting them. You're honoring yourself. You're sending a silent but powerful message. I am whole on my own. I am valuable. I am not dependent on your attention to feel complete. That message resonates on a deep level with avoidants because it challenges the unconscious patterns they've relied on for years. It's subtle, yet it triggers something primal, the need to engage with someone who is emotionally self-contained, someone who is confident enough to exist fully without clinging. This is where the self-worth signal becomes your strongest tool. Self-worth is not about arrogance or ego, it's about presence. It's about embodying a calm, steady energy that communicates to others that your value is inherent and non-negotiable. When an avoidant senses that you are emotionally grounded, they cannot help but notice. They might try to pull away, but their curiosity has already been sparked. They wonder why you're no longer chasing. They wonder how you manage to remain calm and composed while they continue to struggle with their emotional fears. That wonder leads them to reassess their approach toward you. The fascinating part is how this interacts with social value. Humans are inherently social creatures, and avoidants are no exception. When they see you living a vibrant, fulfilled life, connecting with friends, pursuing goals, engaging in experiences, they perceive a form of social proof that amplifies your attractiveness. They observe that your time is valuable, that your energy is limited, and that your life is rich and expansive. This isn't about bragging, it's about genuinely existing in a way that reflects self-respect and personal fulfillment. The more your life thrives independently, the more they feel compelled to pay attention and wonder what they might be missing. Now, it's critical to understand the emotional unavailable trap. This is the moment when many people sabotage their own progress. Some believe that mimicking the avoidant, being cold, distant, or emotionally detached, will make them chase. Others think that playing games, teasing, or provoking jealousy will ignite desire. But these tactics rarely work. Avoidants are hyper-aware of emotional manipulation, and when they detect it, it reinforces their fear and avoidance. The key is not to mirror them or play games, but to remain authentic, emotionally steady, and centered in your own worth. This is the essence of creating a safe chase. You want them to be drawn to you, not tricked or manipulated into it. The safe chase begins with balance. You need to provide enough warmth to show you are accessible, kind, and emotionally stable, yet maintain enough autonomy that they do not feel suffocated. It's a delicate dance, but it is achievable with awareness and practice. Warmth without neediness, availability without desperation, connection without pressure. These are the hallmarks of someone who can naturally elicit the avoidance pursuit. They are compelled to engage, not because they fear losing you, but because they admire and respect your energy. Let's illustrate this with a real-life scenario. Imagine the difference between before and after, applying these principles. Before, you might have sent multiple texts, analyzing each word they wrote, trying to gauge their feelings, and feeling anxious when they didn't respond. You were consumed by their availability, waiting for validation, for reassurance, for signs that they cared. The emotional roller coaster left you drained, insecure, and frustrated. After learning to withdraw with confidence, after cultivating self-worth, after embracing the silence frame, everything changes. You check in less frequently, but your messages are clear and grounded. You focus on your life, friends, hobbies, work, personal growth, without letting them dominate your emotional space. You respond thoughtfully, not reactively, and the effect is astonishing. They begin to reach out, they initiate conversations, they show interest that feels genuine, not compelled. They chase, not because you manipulated them, but because your energy shifted, and suddenly you are someone they want to pursue, someone they perceive as rare, valuable, and emotionally self-contained. And it's not just about making them chase, it's about reversing the emotional imbalance. You are no longer on the roller coaster of their unpredictability. You are not dependent on their validation. You are choosing connection from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. That shift in energy is palpable. Avoidants are exquisitely sensitive to emotional energy, and they respond to the calm, grounded confidence that emanates from someone who values themselves. There is also a neuroscientific component to this. When someone experiences uncertainty in connection, dopamine levels fluctuate. Intermittent attention, moments of engagement followed by thoughtful withdrawal, stimulate curiosity and desire. This is not manipulative, it is simply the natural response of the human brain to the ebb and flow of social interaction, amplified in someone with avoidant tendencies. By managing your energy and your availability, you trigger a natural pursuit response without compromising your integrity. But here's the critical warning. This approach must be rooted in authenticity. If you withdraw in anger, frustration, or fear, the effect is lost. Avoidance can sense desperation and neediness, and it triggers their flight response. Emotional control, self-possession, and calm detachment are key. This is about creating a magnetic presence, not enforcing control over them. By now, you might be feeling a sense of empowerment. You're beginning to understand that you are not helpless in this dynamic. You don't have to chase endlessly or internalize their withdrawal as a reflection of your value. Instead, you can step back, cultivate your self-worth, and allow their natural curiosity and ego needs to activate. This is how you take back control, not over them, but over your own emotional experience. As we move forward, the next sections will delve into why this subtle shift in energy creates obsession in avoidance, why uncertainty and mystery are so potent, and how you can maintain emotional power even when they inevitably return. You'll learn not only how to make them chase, but also how to ensure that the connection is grounded in respect, balance, and authenticity, so you never again feel powerless in their presence. Now let's get into why this shift in energy, the confident withdrawal, the calm detachment, the self-worth signal, can create an almost magnetic pull in an avoidance mind. It isn't magic, it's science mixed with psychology, amplified by emotional truth. When an avoidant senses that you are emotionally independent and grounded, it triggers their attachment system in a way that's both subtle and intense. They experience a form of longing that they often don't fully understand themselves. Your absence is not punishment, it's space for them to notice your value and to feel what they've been missing. The brain responds to uncertainty with heightened attention. Dopamine, the chemical associated with desire and reward, spikes in situations where outcomes are unpredictable. In human terms, when someone doesn't know exactly how you feel or when they might hear from you next, their brain becomes hyper-aware of you. For an avoidant who has trained themselves to suppress feelings and maintain distance, this can feel confusing, almost addictive. They begin to replay interactions, to analyze what you might be doing, and to wonder about your life and your choices. That subtle curiosity grows into focus, and focus can turn into a desire to reconnect. But there's a dark side to this power, and it's critical to understand it. Sometimes an avoidant will chase, but still won't commit. They might show bursts of interest, texts, calls, even plans, but then withdraw again. This is often called breadcrumbing, and it's a trap many fall into because the emotional highs feel so intense. When you see this pattern, your challenge is to remain grounded. This is not a time to chase harder. It's a time to maintain your standards and protect your emotional well-being. Obsession does not equal commitment. Your self-worth does not fluctuate based on someone else's inconsistency. Maintaining control when they come back requires clarity and boundaries. When they reach out, respond from your center of power, not your fears. Ask yourself, are they showing up consistently? Are they meeting me halfway emotionally? Are they willing to engage in connection without pressure or withdrawal? You can respond warmly, but without surrendering your emotional independence. Let them chase from a place of genuine interest, not obligation. The energy you hold while they return is far more important than the words you say. Your calm presence communicates more than any message ever could. This is also a moment to reflect on your own attachment growth. Every interaction with an avoidant is a mirror, reflecting where your insecurities live, where your boundaries have been blurred, and where your emotional patterns are strongest. Healing your attachment style is not optional if you want lasting emotional freedom. The process involves recognizing your own value, asserting your needs, and cultivating a sense of safety within yourself that does not depend on another person's availability. When you do this, you naturally repel unhealthy dynamics and attract people who are emotionally capable and consistent. And finally, the most powerful part of all of this is realizing that you are not powerless. You have the ability to shift the dynamic in your favor without coercion, manipulation, or neediness. By understanding the psychology of avoidance, by stepping into your self-worth, and by applying the ego trick strategically, you reclaim control over your emotional life. You no longer wait in anxiety for validation. You no longer internalize silence as rejection. You no longer sacrifice your peace for someone who cannot meet you. You choose how much energy, attention, and love you give, and in doing so, you naturally invite connection that is healthy, balanced, and mutual. So, as this journey concludes, remember, the goal is never to trap or manipulate anyone. It's to embody your full, confident, authentic self and to let the dynamics of attachment play out in a space that is safe for both parties. When you are emotionally grounded, when you honor your worth, and when you create space for their ego to engage, the avoidant chase becomes almost inevitable, not because of games, but because your presence is now magnetic, balanced, and alive. And here's the part that changes everything. Even if they never chase, even if they never return, you have already won. You have reclaimed your emotional power. You have chosen yourself. You have learned how to exist fully without being consumed by the pull of someone else's fear. You have discovered the subtle, transformative power of confident withdrawal, emotional maturity, and unwavering self-worth. The truth is, love should not feel like anxiety. Connection should not feel like a battle for attention, and your value is never measured by someone else's availability or fear. By applying these principles, you step out of the cycle of chasing and ghosting. You create a life that is rich, fulfilling, and aligned with your deepest needs, and when someone is truly capable of connection, they will meet you there. So take this knowledge, internalize it, and let it transform the way you engage with emotionally unavailable partners. Step back with confidence, stand tall in your self-worth, embrace the mystery of living fully without dependence, and watch how the dynamics shift, not because you forced it, but because you became magnetic in the truest sense, calm, confident, and complete in yourself. The emotional liberation that comes from this understanding is profound. You are no longer a participant in someone else's avoidance patterns. You are the author of your own emotional story. And that is where true empowerment, attraction, and healthy connection begin.